Okay, remember, Sekhmet is where you get the panther style from, and a mountain lion is another term for a cougar or a panther. Okay, also it's important to notice that I'm going to be reading something from Ramps to the Sky, the Pyramid and its Complex, and it's from the book called The Gift of the Nile, I believe the title is. Let me double check that. It's called Ancient Egypt. I guess it's just called Ancient Egypt. I thought it was called The Gift of the Nile. I guess that's that chapter name. But anyway, I guess the cover's off, but anyway, get to page 170. And it talks about the pyramid is also connected with the Bennu or Phoenix, the legendary bird that was worshipped at Heliopolis as the incarnation of Re. The Bennu was said to perch upon a pyramidal mound known as the Benben, represented by the pyramid themselves and also by the pyramidal point of the Egyptian obelisk. Near to the pyramid complexes, 6 kings of the 5th dynasty constructed temples to the sun that incorporated large squat obelisks in imitation of the original Benben that stood at Heliopolis. Remember, Heliopolis means the place of pillars. The primeval waters were none at the beginning of time, thereby giving the creator sun god a place upon which to come into existence. It seems that King Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid, was regarded as having become the incarnation of Re in his lifetime. He was almost certainly identified with Re after his death because of the Great Pyramid had the Egyptian name Akhet Khufu, the horizon of Khufu. In other words, it was a point from which Khufu would rise each day as the sun. His heirs, the pharaohs Jedefre and Khafre, were the first kings to bear the royal title Sa-Re. Remember where I told you from Sarah, Sa-Re, a son of Re? Okay, so Sarah bore Sa-Re, sons of Re. Now, we get typical pyramid complex contains that 14 distinct architectural components, each with a specific function and location. Although many of these elements existed earlier, the more complete form of the complex emerged in the 4th dynasty and continued throughout the Old Kingdom with little change except occasionally to accommodate. Okay, and it goes on to talk about the pyramid of Sneferu in the Old Middle Kingdom. Many Old Middle Kingdom examples have discovered the oldest, that being from the Red Pyramid of Sneferu, found in the 4th dynasty at Dashur. Okay, remember, Amenhotep was an architect. Khufu was the guy who ordered it. So when you say who built the pyramid, a whole bunch of people built the pyramid. The pharaoh gave the order on behalf of God, and the masons got to work with the planning, and you had, you know, the slaves building, moving blocks and all kinds of fucking shit. Anyway, I could go on and talk about, you know, tempted to read you this whole fucking book. It's very, very interesting. It shows you the breakdown of the pyramid structure and the different chambers. You know, the Khufu, Khafre, the pyramid of Menkaure. You know who Menkaure is? And we talk about the mortuary temples I talked about. I talked about the Great Sphinx, the Mastaba cemeteries. I don't believe I touched on that. But I might get into that in the notes or another video. Subsidiary pyramids, the boat pits of Khufu. Okay, I touched on all this stuff. As I'm going through this book, I'm going to see if it has anything that, you know, I remember from reading it, or that... Okay, the Egyptian calendar had 12 months. There's a bunch of stuff underlined. I don't know if I underlined this before or if it was somebody else I know. From the style of underlining, it looks like my sloppy style. Okay, so let me read what I underlined. The Egyptian year was divided into 12 months, each 30 days long. Each month was divided into 3 weeks or 10 days or decades. Astronomical texts divide the night sky into 36 deacons. Deacons represent 1 decade. And then you get Akhed, the inundation. Peret, the emergence or winter. And you get Shemu, the harvest. Remember, the house of Shem, the house of harvest. Jesus is, you know, talking about the harvest. He's the great shepherd holding the staff. So to say that, you know, Joseph lived in Egypt, but it has nothing to do with Egypt. To say that Israel, Jacob, brought his whole family to Egypt, but it has nothing to do with Egypt. It's so symbolic of it having everything to do with Egypt, the people, the hierarchy, the slaves, everything. Now, all through this is artwork of Egyptian nature. All throughout this book, you see black Egyptians constantly portrayed. For me, it's not just an insult to my people, But, oh, I almost forgot. I believe I saw the rockefellers+corruption. I don't know why I didn't bookmark that or something. I was going through this earlier, and I saw something that it reminded me exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, I also want you to notice, how is the depiction of the Nubians, the Nubian tribute? Look at the Nubian tribute. I don't think you can see their hair. There. You see the Nubians' hair in the Nubian tribute? Look at the depiction of the hair. Okay? Is that not exactly like the Egyptians? Now look at the hands. Those long Nubian fingers, those long African fingers. You know, basketball players got big hands, especially black ones. That is what the ancient Egyptians and the ancient people thought of black people as well. Now look at the distinct difference between the Asiatic Bedou and the Egyptian. Okay, remember, there's the Bedouins, there's the Afro-Asiatics. These guys mixed together and gave you the Jews. It's right there in the Bible. Remember the priestess of On. Remember Azarah. Remember I told you how Joseph. Remember I told you about Isaac. Remember I told you about Abraham and Hagar. Here's an example of the war axe, one of the weapons the foreign users brought. If you notice that they use axes in Kung Fu, but they use swords and staffs. The main weapons are the staff, and the most powerful weapon of Kung Fu is the spear. And everyone knows where the spear comes from. So that in itself shows you that the answer is Africa. Now, let me show you a picture of the Blue Nile and the White Nile. This is relevant to what I'm talking about as well. You see how it comes out? You follow it. Logically, they would follow all the way down, and they go to the source. Go to the source. That's where the original black people went. They cared about the source of the knowledge. These people cared about the trade routes and be able to conquest with the knowledge. It's the difference between the devil wanting to apply it in a military way and the priesthood, and then the priesthood having to become a military priesthood to fight off the minions of Set. And history all reflects that. So you see when the tribute, the Asiatic Bedouin tribute, the Semitic people, and the Asiatic Bedou, aka the Afro-Asiatic Semitic peoples. So you understand that there is no confusion in who the Jews were. There is no confusion in what I am saying. Now, let's see, in the last 2 minutes, let's see if I can find it. And the race begins. Here we go. Yay! We found it. Yay! Alright. So this is rockefellers+corruption. Notice I said it matters what's in their hands. But it doesn't matter what they're in hands. They all hold the Ankh. They all hold the scepter. They all hold the wasp scepter. Now, remember the staff. Look at the staffs that he's carrying. Both of them. Why is he carrying the staff and flail? Why is he blue? And why on his head is there not the Pharaoh's crown? The crown of Upper Egypt. Because Heru's temple is where? Upper Egypt. His people are where? Upper Egypt. So why does he not have the Pharaoh's crown of Upper Egypt? I've given you one of the main ways you can tell. That, my friends, is the color blue, the color of God, and the color of faithfulness, as well as horakhty. 1000 BCE in a funeral stela. 2,000 years after Menzies. So, did the people who made this stellar 2,000 years later, did they come up with the idea? Did the people who made the church 1,000 years after that come up with the idea? Did this girl come up with the idea? Or were they laced by the gods? Were they given the knowledge by the gods? My friends, I give you yet another proof. Thank you.